Fire in Australia does not end when the flames die. The silence that follows is deceptive, a stillness heavy with the smell of charcoal and the faint hiss of cooling ash. To most creatures, it is a wasteland, soil too hot to walk on, air thick with particulates, the trees reduced to skeletal forms. But to the goanna, this is the signal of opportunity. The fire's passage is not destruction, it is the starting bell of a feast. Within hours, the bush's apex scavenger begins its slow patrol through the ruins, following an ancient pattern written in smoke and instinct. The goanna, or monitor lizard, is an evolutionary survivor sculpted for aftermaths. Thick-skinned, muscular, and endowed with a metabolism that can idle for days or surge into predatory speed in seconds, it straddles the line between reptile and opportunist. Across Australia's diverse landscapes, from coastal heath to inland spinifex plains, monitors have long served as the bush's cleanup crew. Their forked tongues flick rhythmically, sampling chemical traces from the air, transferring them to the Jacobson's organ in the roof of the mouth. There, invisible molecules resolve into information: who has died, how long ago, and how far. In a burned landscape, that sense becomes the ultimate survival tool. A day after a wildfire, when the soil still radiates heat and the air smells of resin and smoke, the goanna begins its ash harvest. It moves deliberately, low to the ground, each step leaving a distinct drag mark in the soot. Its scales, patterned in gold and black, mirror the scorched bark around it. When seen from above, the lizard is nearly invisible, a moving shadow on a shadow. Beneath its heavy frame, thermosensitive receptors along its belly gauge the temperature of the ground, allowing it to locate cooler pockets where life or death might linger. Here, the air is different, denser, carrying the faint ammonia of decomposition. The goanna angles its head and flicks its tongue twice. It has found what it came for. Fires kill unevenly. Some animals perish instantly in the flames, others succumb later to heat stress or smoke inhalation, and many fall victim to exposure in the blackened aftermath. Kangaroos caught in gullies, birds stunned by smoke, wallabies too slow to escape. All leave behind a trail of carcasses. For scavengers, this sudden abundance is rare in the wild. Studies tracking post-fire transects show that within 48 hours of a burn, scavenging activity by goannas and related monitors increases by up to fourfold compared to pre-fire levels. In those same areas, carcass persistence time, the number of hours a dead animal remains uneaten, drops by more than half. The fire doesn't just kill, it redistributes food energy with surgical precision, and the goanna is evolution's first responder. Its approach is methodical. A goanna does not charge or tear like a mammal, it dissects. Using claws capable of splitting open a tree hollow, it rips through singed hide, peeling layers of flesh with unsettling care. Its skull and jaw joint are designed for torque, not brute force, a hinge that allows it to twist meat free from bone. When feeding on large carcasses, it often begins at the abdominal cavity, extracting nutrient-rich organs first. Each bite transfers bacteria and enzymes into the open air, accelerating decomposition and feeding insects that in turn will nourish other scavengers. In this sense, the goanna's feast is not an ending, but a transfer, a biological relay race where nothing is wasted. Fire ecologists observing goanna movements through GPS tagging have discovered that these lizards often anticipate the zones of highest mortality. They are drawn not randomly, but to corridors where vegetation density and wind direction would have produced lethal heat concentrations. The behavior suggests memory, or at least a learned association between landscape structure and outcome. Over years, an individual goanna may learn its territory's fire rhythm, knowing which ridges burn first, which valleys trap the fleeing, and where to wait for the feast to cool. Temperature plays another role. As ectotherms, goannas rely entirely on external heat for energy. Post-fire ground conditions, though extreme to mammals, create ideal warming sites for reptilian physiology. The blackened soil absorbs sunlight efficiently, raising surface temperatures up to 60 degrees, enough to accelerate digestion and movement, but below lethal thresholds for a large monitor. For a scavenger that must process kilograms of dense protein, this heat is an advantage. Researchers fitting temperature loggers to goannas have found that individuals foraging in burned areas maintain higher and more stable body temperatures than those in unburned control sites. The fire, in effect, cooks the landscape into a reptilian incubator. But the goanna's role extends beyond self-interest. By rapidly removing carcasses, it reduces disease vectors that could otherwise explode in post-fire conditions. Fewer decomposing bodies mean fewer blowflies and bacterial blooms, lowering the risk of secondary outbreaks among surviving mammals. Even the act of dragging or partially burying remains, common behavior after feeding, mixes organic matter into the soil, returning nitrogen and phosphorus to ecosystems stripped bare by fire. Within weeks, these nutrient hotspots sprout the first green shoots, the signal of regrowth in a landscape reborn through predation and decay. In some regions, the goanna's presence defines the tempo of recovery. Motion-activated cameras placed along burn gradients show a predictable sequence. First the insects, next the goannas, later the birds of prey and dingoes that follow their trails. The monitor's foraging activity effectively marks the transition from catastrophe to productivity. Where the lizards feed, other scavengers converge. Wedge-tailed eagles descend to pick the leftovers. Ravens trail in daylight. Even small carnivorous marsupials like quolls benefit from the remains that the goanna can't finish. A single carcass can sustain an entire chain of consumers, each tied to the lizard's precision. When the rains finally arrive, the same goanna may switch roles from scavenger to gardener. Seeds trapped in the fur of burned mammals or in the stomachs of consumed prey pass through its digestive tract, emerging intact and pre-fertilized. Field researchers have documented seed germination rates nearly double for those dispersed through goanna scat compared to those dropped directly onto ash. The lizard unintentionally becomes an agent of forest renewal. The ashes that fed it return to life as green, closing the ecological loop it helped open. Despite their importance, goannas are rarely seen in this role. The public image of scavengers remains shaped by discomfort, creatures associated with death rather than survival. But in the Australian bush, where fire is as cyclical as rain, the scavenger is the pulse keeper. Without it, nutrients would stall, carcasses would fester, and recovery would falter. The goanna is not merely cleaning up, it is recycling life, keeping the system in motion when everything else has stopped. To film this process requires patience and precision. Thermal cameras placed along fire lines capture the first movements of heat signatures hours after containment. Against the cooling ground, a bright figure appears, a monitor emerging from a burrow, pausing to taste the air. It walks straight toward the still smouldering center, unhurried, confident, immune to the chaos left behind. In its wake, the bush begins to stir, flies rising in clouds, a crow landing nearby, the sound of wind returning. The camera pans wider, and what once looked like devastation resolves into pattern, scavengers, regrowth, equilibrium. The question, when do ashes turn into food, answers itself in this moment. The transformation is immediate, continuous, and ancient. Fire kills, but it also feeds. The goanna stands at that intersection, its hunger synchronizing with the planet's oldest renewal mechanism. Each step it takes across the ash is both a foraging path and a line of succession, from death to decomposition to rebirth. When night falls, the burnt landscape glows faintly with residual heat. The goanna curls beneath a fallen log, its belly still warm from the day's sun, its body sated. Around it, the bush whispers with the quiet chemistry of decay. Tomorrow, the soil will be cooler, the insects thicker, and the scavenger will rise again to continue its patrol. The fire's memory will fade, but the goanna will remember in the only way evolution allows, through instinct refined by centuries of flame. In its patient work among the ashes, life learns how to begin again. In the heart of the Australian bush, fire doesn't announce itself with flame. It begins as scent, a faint metallic tang on the wind that only the most alert notice. To a kangaroo, that smell is ancient language. It means the balance has shifted, that the boundary between safety and chaos has begun to move. Long before the first ember lands, the air carries a message written in smoke and pressure. In this invisible code, the kangaroo reads direction, urgency, and survival. As day heats toward its breaking point, convection columns rise above the canopy. Dry leaves crackle, insects fall silent, and the shadows on the ground grow sharper, as if light itself tightens before the blaze. Then comes the sound, low at first, like distant surf, growing until it becomes a living roar. Across the ridge, fire erupts. In seconds, the valley fills with a dense grey tide. This is when the bush's great athlete takes command of its evolutionary design. The kangaroo's body is a masterpiece of efficient locomotion. Each hop is a calculated equation between gravity, momentum, and elastic storage. Tendons in its hind legs act like living springs, recycling kinetic energy through each leap, allowing sustained speeds that can reach 60 kilometers an hour with minimal fatigue. In ordinary life, that efficiency conserves energy across wide, dry ranges. In a firestorm, it becomes something else, a last defense against extinction. Yet speed alone does not guarantee survival. A fire front moves with its own wind, a chaotic mix of downdrafts, updrafts, and vortices that can shift in seconds. For an animal fleeing on instinct, one wrong turn into the wind can mean suffocation before the flames even arrive. The kangaroo's success depends on reading the wind itself, not just running from heat but toward breathable air. And this is where smoke, paradoxically, becomes its guide. Thermal cameras and GPS collars fitted to kangaroos during controlled burns have revealed a remarkable pattern. When smoke plumes begin to spread, kangaroos consistently flee not directly away from the visible fire line, but at calculated oblique angles, following what researchers call smoke lanes. These are narrow corridors of thinner, cooler air that form between denser columns of smoke and rising heat. To the human eye, they appear chaotic, shifting with every gust. But to a kangaroo's sensory system, its acute olfactory receptors, its large nasal passages designed for high airflow, they are maps in motion. In the first minutes of escape, as the smoke deepens, the kangaroo's nostrils flare and twitch with each breath, sampling the air's chemistry like a living sensor. Levels of carbon monoxide and particulate matter vary sharply across small distances. The animal adjusts course repeatedly, always moving toward the cleaner edge, away from suffocating concentrations. The effect looks erratic to observers, a zigzagging sprint across the open, but it is in fact a finely tuned response to invisible gradients. Evolution has trained this reflex over millennia of seasonal burns. Wind direction amplifies the strategy. Fires generate their own weather systems, pulling oxygen inward and venting superheated gases upward. This creates lateral air currents, often bending away from valleys toward higher ground. Kangaroos, sensing this pattern, often flee uphill rather than down. GPS data from post-fire studies in New South Wales show escape paths curving in graceful arcs that mirror prevailing wind and smoke dispersal models. The routes are not random. They trace the landscape's pressure fields, converting chaos into order through motion. Even the mechanics of hopping contribute to survival in smoke-filled terrain. The forward momentum of each leap pushes clean air toward the lungs, helping flush out inhaled particulates. The kangaroo's large tidal volume, about 3 times that of a similar-sized mammal, allows it to take deeper, slower breaths, reducing the relative intake of toxins. In essence, its locomotion ventilates its own body while it runs. Combined with its ability to reach 10-meter bounds across debris-strewn ground, it can outpace the slower, oxygen-starved species that perish in the same corridor. The camera follows one such survivor through the aftermath. The ground still smolders in places. Tree trunks stand hollowed and black. The kangaroo's fur is ash-dusted, its chest heaving, eyes reflecting the pale sky. Around it, the air shimmers with residual heat, carrying faint embers that drift like orange snow. It pauses, nostrils flaring again, not in panic now, but in calculation. Even after escape, the scent of smoke continues to inform its movements. Fires often burn in mosaics, leaving pockets of untouched grass between scorched patches. The animal moves cautiously, guided not by sight, but by subtle shifts in air composition, choosing routes that lead toward cooler, damper ground. Scientists analyzing these movements have noted that surviving kangaroos tend to congregate in specific micro-habitats after a burn, riparian zones, depressions, or forest edges where smoke dissipates quickly. These refuges are not chosen at random but correlate strongly with the same smoke lanes detected during flight. The animal's acute sensitivity to smoke gradients doesn't end when the danger does. It continues to shape where they rest, graze, and reorient. In the weeks following a major fire, these areas often become centers of ecological recovery, seeded by the survivors that followed the fumes to safety. The kangaroo's behavioral map is therefore a record of atmospheric physics translated into biology. What we see as panic-driven flight is, in truth, a living weather model. Each leap represents a data point in the balance between heat, oxygen, and motion. Over generations, such responses refine through natural selection. Those that ran blind into the wind lineages ago did not leave descendants. Those that angled correctly did. The result is instinct wrapped around thermodynamics, a species whose nervous system carries the memory of 1,000 fires. But this adaptation, like all in nature, has limits. As climate change drives hotter and faster burning fires, the time available to respond shrinks. The traditional cues, scent intensity, temperature rise, sound, can now arrive too late. Researchers studying the catastrophic 2019-2020 bushfires noted cases where entire mobs of kangaroos were overtaken by fires that advanced faster than their maximum sustained speed. In these situations, the evolutionary script fails. No sensory system can outrun combustion moving at 40 kilometers per hour with wind assistance. What remains then is luck and terrain. Yet even here, the kangaroo's design offers resilience. Its powerful hind legs allow it to bound over fallen branches, rocks and fences that would trap other animals. Its tail, heavy as a counterweight, stabilizes mid-air turns, letting it pivot quickly when smoke direction shifts. Its fur, coarse and slightly oily, offers brief protection from radiant heat. And in a curious twist of behavior, kangaroos have been observed congregating along roads and cleared lines during active burns, areas where airflow is cleaner and the heat front slower. These impromptu smoke lanes, carved by human infrastructure, become extensions of the instinctive escape map. In the aftermath of fire, when rain finally falls and the air clears, the bush begins its slow recovery. Charred stems send out new shoots. Green ferns push through the ash. The kangaroos return to graze, often within days, guided again by wind and scent. Their presence signals that oxygen and moisture have reclaimed the land. To the ecosystem, they are both survivors and scouts, testing the air before the forest breathes again. Do fumes point the way out? The answer, seen through the slow-motion arc of a fleeing kangaroo, is yes, but not by intention. Smoke is both threat and map, danger and guide. The kangaroo reads it as instinctively as a sailor reads the stars. In every stride, it measures the invisible contours of the air, threading a path between combustion and breath. From above, as drones capture their flight across the burning landscape, the movement of hundreds of kangaroos looks almost choreographed, ribbons of motion weaving through the smoke plumes, converging along invisible corridors that lead towards safety. The camera pulls back, revealing the vast mosaic of fire and wind that governs this ancient continent. In that moment, the lesson crystallizes. In Australia, survival is not a matter of running away, it is a matter of reading the air. And few creatures read it better than the kangaroo, whose leaps trace the delicate boundary between suffocation and salvation, guided by fumes that paradoxically point the way to life. Beneath the surface of a warming sea, the water is never still. Invisible rivers of temperature, slow wandering gradients of heat and cold, slip across the ocean like migrating shadows. They redraw the map of life below without ever lifting a grain of sand. To the human eye, the ocean might seem uniform, a vast blue plain without borders. But to the manta ray, it's a shifting topography of warmth and food, a living weather system written in plankton and current. Manta rays are the silent flyers of this underwater sky. Each wing beat moves more like breath than motion, slow, continuous and deliberate, as though they are gliding through time itself. Their enormous pectoral fins span up to 7 meters, but the body that powers them is lean and almost weightless. With every sweep of those wings, they harvest the sea's invisible crop, trillions of microscopic plankton, the drifting plants and animals that form the ocean's true foundation. To find these ephemeral fields of life, mantas follow gradients, tiny variations in heat, salinity, and light that reveal where plankton gather. When marine heatwaves strike, they change everything. A sudden pulse of warmth might start thousands of kilometers away, perhaps from a shift in equatorial trade winds or a delay in monsoon rains, but the effect cascades outward. Warm water rises, displacing cooler, nutrient-rich layers that normally feed the plankton bloom. In some regions, productivity collapses. Yet in others, where currents funnel heat into narrow bands, plankton density can actually surge, as trapped organisms multiply in confined corridors of calm. These are the detours mantas read instinctively. Satellite sea surface temperature, SST maps, show it from above. Faint ribbons of heat winding along coastlines, wrapping around islands or pooling in shallow bays. Overlaid with plankton fluorescence data, a pattern emerges. Green spirals twisting through gold and red, marking zones of abundance. When researchers tag mantas with GPS transmitters, the dots gather not at random but along these same serpentine paths. To an ecologist, it's a revelation. To a manta, it's a map. It has always known how to read. In the heat of an austral summer, a school of mantas may appear off Ningaloo Reef or the coral sea shelf with sudden precision. They rise from the blue like satellites converging on a signal, spiraling through columns of glowing plankton beneath the moonlight. These bay harvests are timed to the invisible architecture of heat. The rays form chains, gliding head to tail through the densest patches, their open mouths filtering cubic meters of water per minute. Inside those mouths, specialized gill rakers, fine elastic meshes that act like living sieves, capture the plankton while ejecting clear water in rhythmic jets. Each feeding loop can last hours, the mantas carving elegant figure eights that mark the richest veins of food. But these gatherings are more than feeding events. They are thermal experiments written into evolution. Mantas, being cartilaginous fish, rely heavily on external heat to regulate their body functions. Unlike tunas or sharks, they cannot retain metabolic warmth for long. When marine heatwaves sweep across their migration routes, the rays adapt in surprising ways. Researchers tracking body temperatures with miniature data loggers have found that mantas will often climb toward the surface to recharge after deep foraging dives, basking in upper layer warmth like solar panels. Yet they never linger too long, just enough to reset internal enzymes for the next dive. The heatwave's arrival doesn't just redirect their path, it rewires their metabolism for a new landscape. These detours also reshape communities. The sudden appearance of mantas concentrates predators and scavengers alike. Small pelagic fish, drawn by the same plankton surge, cluster near the feeding loops, seeking safety in numbers. Sharks, especially oceanic whitetips, shadow the mantas, not to hunt them, but to take advantage of the turbulence they create. Even seabirds respond. Frigate birds and terns hover above, keying on the dark shapes below that signal a productive current. The entire food web pivots on the geometry of heat. To understand this fully, oceanographers deploy drifting buoys and subsurface gliders that measure the boundary between thermal layers, the thermocline. In regions where heat waves compress this layer upward, the plankton bloom collapses. Where it dips downward, new nutrients are drawn into the light, feeding explosions of life. Mantas seem to find these latter zones weeks before satellites can. Their navigation appears to be guided by a combination of cues, magnetic anomalies, subtle temperature gradients detected by thermoreceptors along their cephalic lobes, and even low-frequency vibrations that signal current shifts. In a way, each manta becomes an organic sensor, moving through a living data field. Yet there's a cost. When heat waves linger beyond normal cycles, plankton species composition changes. Gelatinous plankton, less nutritious than their diatom-rich cousins, begin to dominate. Mantas feeding in these altered corridors may ingest less protein and lipid per volume of water filtered. Over months, this can affect reproductive cycles and migration endurance. In extreme events, entire feeding bays may empty, leaving mantas to wander in apparent confusion through barren seas, burning through stored energy in search of the vanished bloom. Still, the ocean remembers balance. As heat lines fade and currents resume their normal dance, the plankton fields return, sometimes denser than before. The mantas return with them, tracing the same corridors like ancient flight paths. Every year the pattern repeats, but never perfectly, because the sea itself is rewriting its instructions. From the air, a drone might capture the surface signature of this grand choreography, a mosaic of warm gold and cool turquoise, streaked by eddies and foamy upwellings. From below, the camera would drift among the mantas as they glide through sunlight spears, each wingstroke bending the water into silver arcs. Particles swirl in their wake like galaxies collapsing into order. In these moments, one understands that the manta's path is not random movement, but the ocean's own pulse translated into motion. The question that drives researchers, do heat lines redraw ocean routes, has an answer that is both simple and profound. They do, but not in isolation. Every shift in temperature carries ecological ripples across the sea's invisible infrastructure, the currents, the food webs, the migrations. Mantas follow these new routes not because they choose to, but because they are written into them. The warmth becomes a corridor, the corridor a feast, and the feast a gathering that binds life to heat in an endless, fluid negotiation. When the last light fades and the water turns to ink, the mantas continue to glide in slow arcs beneath the stars. Above them, constellations drift across the same lines of latitude their bodies trace below, two maps, sky and sea, drawn by the same invisible forces of heat and motion. And somewhere between them, the manta finds its rhythm, flying through the ocean's weather, guided by heat that shapes not only its journey, but the very architecture of life itself. In the Australian bush, safety is rarely found above ground. Here, the sun can burn through leaves, wind can drive embers faster than birds can fly, and in minutes, an entire valley can turn from life to ash. Yet even in the fiercest fires, when the horizon glows orange and the air itself roars, something remains alive below. Beneath the crackle and fury, under roots and sandstone shelves, a quiet architecture of tunnels waits in the dark. It belongs to one of the continent's most unlikely engineers, the wombat. To the casual observer, a wombat seems built for stillness. Its squat frame and slow gait give the impression of laziness, a creature designed for unhurried grazing. But underground, this marsupial transforms into a master excavator. With claws like chisels and shoulders dense with muscle, the wombat moves soil the way a whale parts water, effortlessly, continuously, reshaping the earth itself. Its burrows, often extending 30 meters in total length and plunging up to 3 meters deep, are not random holes, but systems, complex, multi-chambered labyrinths designed for temperature stability, airflow, and defense. What began as protection from predators and heat has, over millennia, evolved into something far greater, a network that saves not just wombats, but entire ecosystems in crisis. During bushfire season, when temperatures soar and eucalypt forests turn volatile, these burrows become sanctuaries. Thermal imaging studies during prescribed burns have revealed a phenomenon once thought anecdotal: wombat tunnels acting as fire bunkers for a host of other species. Small marsupials, bandicoots, antechinus's, even wallabies have been filmed crowding into these subterranean shelters moments before a fire front arrives. Reptiles slide in beside them, frogs cling to damp soil at the tunnel edges. Predators and prey abandon their distinctions here. Instinct overrules fear. In the wombat's world, survival is communal, not competitive. The burrow's effectiveness lies in physics as much as biology. Soil is one of nature's most reliable insulators. A meter below the surface, temperature fluctuations vanish. The difference between summer and winter can be less than 2 degrees Celsius. When surface air reaches 800 degrees Celsius during a burn, the soil just half a meter down remains near 20 degrees Celsius. The firestorm's oxygen vacuum may howl across the hillsides, but in the tunnels, the air stays still. Moisture condenses on packed clay, sustaining a breathable humidity. When the flames pass, the burrow remains a pocket of the living in a landscape of cinders. Inside, the wombat itself is often calm. It may hunker deeper into the warren, plugging side entrances with its broad, cartilage-reinforced rump, a biological shield evolved to block intruders. That same adaptation now seals out fire and ash. The animal's metabolism slows, heart rate drops. It waits in a kind of subterranean stillness that may last hours. For the wombat, endurance is evolution's chosen weapon. Unlike kangaroos that must flee or birds that must rise, it survives by standing ground, literally. In the aftermath, the real miracle begins. When the fire has consumed every blade of grass and every insect above ground, the burrow's inhabitants emerge into a world that looks erased. Trees are black silhouettes, soil is sterile dust, and the silence feels heavier than smoke. Yet, within days, life begins to crawl outward from those same holes. The mammals that sheltered together disperse, carrying with them the seeds, spores, and gut microbes that will recolonize the burned terrain. The wombat's tunnels are not just shelters, they are reseeding stations, vessels that preserve the bush's biological memory. Ecologists mapping post-fire recovery zones have found a startling correlation. Areas with higher densities of wombat burrows recover faster, supporting greater invertebrate and plant diversity within the first growing season. The reasons are layered. Wombat burrows alter hydrology, trapping rainfall and slowing runoff. Ash and organic debris accumulate at tunnel mouths, forming nutrient-rich seed beds. Even the air that flows from the burrows, slightly moister and cooler, creates microclimates where fungi and pioneer plants can take hold. In this way, the wombat inadvertently engineers the comeback of the landscape, converting catastrophe into regeneration. Thermal drone footage captured during the 2020 bushfires offered a haunting view. Dark pockmarks of cooler ground scattered like constellations across the glowing red expanse. Each mark corresponded to a wombat warren, where temperatures stayed survivable while everything around burned at lethal intensity. When biologists returned weeks later, cameras revealed a slow procession of survivors, echidnas nosing through ash, betongs sniffing at entrances, even snakes curling into the tunnels to escape the daytime heat. The wombat itself, dust-covered but alive, would emerge only at dusk, resuming its routine as though the apocalypse above had been a passing storm. What's striking is that this communal use of wombat burrows appears unintentional yet consistent. The wombat does not invite guests, but it rarely drives them away. Its tolerance seems shaped by solitude rather than aggression. A neutral coexistence evolved from the continent's long cycles of fire and drought. In a place where survival depends more on endurance than dominance, tolerance becomes an ecological currency. The wombat's quiet indifference may well be one of Australia's great uncelebrated rescue systems. This phenomenon has begun to reshape how scientists think about ecosystem resilience. Traditionally, research on keystone species focuses on predators, pollinators, or herbivores, animals that actively shape communities through feeding or movement. But the wombat operates as an architectural keystone, a creature whose engineering of space creates a lifeline for hundreds of others. Its burrow system acts like a natural emergency infrastructure, parallel to human fire shelters, but older, quieter, and more reliable. When researchers placed temperature and gas sensors inside active burrows during experimental burns, they found that oxygen levels dropped only slightly, while carbon dioxide rose but remained below harmful thresholds. The geometry of the tunnels, with multiple shafts and angled entries, appears to vent smoke passively while keeping heat out, an evolutionary design indistinguishable from deliberate engineering. Even in non-fire seasons, this underground city serves broader ecological functions. Its chambers provide nesting sites for small mammals during breeding periods, safe hibernacula for reptiles through winter, and humidity refuges for amphibians during droughts. The soil excavated from new tunnels mixes oxygen into deep clay layers, stimulating microbial activity that fertilizes nearby vegetation. Over centuries, the same warren may expand through generations, forming multi-entry systems large enough to span entire ridges, a living shelter network continually maintained by the lineage that dug it. From above, the landscape gives no hint of this intricate world. A field of coarse grass, a few scattered burrow mounds, maybe the crescent track of a wombat's nightly wanderings. Yet below, the ground is veined with life support systems as sophisticated as coral reefs or termite cities. Each burrow records centuries of adaptation to a continent that burns as part of its heartbeat. Fire is not the enemy here, it's the sculptor, and the wombat is its counterweight. As global temperatures rise and bushfire seasons lengthen, these earthen sanctuaries become ever more vital. Conservationists now consider wombat burrows as potential tools for landscape recovery strategies. Artificial burrows, modeled after their architecture, have been tested to shelter small mammals in restoration zones. Early results show promise, proving that the wombat's design may outlast the wombat itself, a legacy encoded in soil. In the end, the question, can the ground save a crowd, is not poetic speculation but empirical truth. The ground does save, because it remembers. Every tunnel, every hollowed chamber holds the story of adaptation against fire's inevitability. In these dark corridors, evolution has written one of its most elegant equations: depth equals survival. When the next fire comes, and it will, the same ancient wombat line will retreat again into the earth, carrying with it not just its own heartbeat, but those of an entire hidden congregation. Above, flames will race and the forest will scream. Below, a silence will hold, cool and constant, until the roar fades and the soil exhales life once more. In the days after a bushfire, when the smoke finally thins and the sun returns as a pale coin above the ash, the forest edge hums with a strange kind of abundance. The air still smells scorched, the ground still smoulders in places, yet something begins to move again, small, quick lives that survive the inferno or return too soon. Insects flushed from their hiding places, reptiles stunned by the sudden light, rodents desperate for food among the blackened debris. And perched just above this new threshold of vulnerability, watching with unblinking precision, sits the kookaburra. To most, the kookaburra is a symbol of laughter, its iconic call rolling through the Australian dawn like a chorus of joy. But behind that familiar sound lies one of the continent's most efficient edge predators. It is not merely a hunter of opportunity, it is a specialist in geometry. The kookaburra thrives at boundaries, places where openness meets cover, where prey must cross from safety into exposure. Fire, for all its destruction, redraws those boundaries overnight. And in that fleeting window between devastation and regrowth, the kookaburra's world fills with possibility. The bird's body is built for ambush precision. Stocky and compact, with strong legs and a heavy beak that can crush a skink in one strike, the kookaburra is not designed for long-distance flight or pursuit. It is a sentinel, relying on patience, angles and timing. When the forest burns, its perch selection changes. Before fire, it watches from high branches over tangled understory. After fire, it shifts lower, to fence posts, half-burned stumps, and the skeletal limbs of trees stripped bare. These new edges, raw and open, become hunting grounds with unprecedented visibility. For perhaps a week, no more, the world below is easier to read. Every twitch of a tail, every rustle of disturbed ash stands out against the monochrome background. Field surveys following controlled burns confirm this advantage. Researchers measuring prey abundance along fire boundaries have documented a surge in capture rates for kookaburras within 48 hours of a burn. The reason lies in the physiology of prey as much as the predator. Small mammals and reptiles emerging from burrows face a new problem. Their camouflage, evolved for dappled forest floors, fails completely against the charred terrain. The fire erases the shadows they once matched. Even insects, disoriented by the loss of vegetation, fly lower and slower. For the kookaburra, this is the brief harvest season of the edge, a biological dividend paid for the forest's loss. From a distance, the bird seems motionless, feathers blending with the grey trunks. But its head is constantly adjusting, the eyes, large and forward-facing, refocusing with every movement below. Kookaburras possess binocular vision fine-tuned for depth perception. They can calculate trajectory, distance and landing speed within fractions of a second. When prey appears, a lizard darting across open ground, a grasshopper exposed against pale ash, the strike is instantaneous. The kookaburra drops like a stone, wings closed, beak first. Impact is surgical, a single crushing blow followed by a short shake to kill or stun. In this open post-fire theatre, no cover exists to break the line of sight. But the edge advantage doesn't last. As green shoots push through the ash and grasses return, the visibility window closes. Within 10 days, prey movement again merges with background complexity. The kookaburra, ever attuned to diminishing returns, begins to roam, following the mosaic of recently burned patches across its territory. To an ecologist tracking its GPS movements, the pattern is unmistakable. Straight flights between burn scars, pauses along perimeters, then loops of foraging within the first 100 meters of regrowth. It is, quite literally, an edge economy in motion. The relationship between fire and predation has shaped Australian ecosystems for millions of years. Fire creates edges, edges create opportunity. Birds like the kookaburra have evolved to read the landscape not as static, but as rhythm, burn and bloom, destruction and renewal. Their population density often spikes in years following moderate fire regimes, where patchiness allows overlapping cycles of feeding and nesting. In this way, the kookaburra becomes both a participant in and a regulator of post-fire succession. By removing weakened or displaced prey, it prevents overpopulation during early regrowth phases, indirectly influencing which plant species survive. The edge is not merely where the kookaburra feeds, it is where the next forest begins to balance itself. In practical terms, this behavior can be measured. Biologists conducting time transects across burn boundaries record a phenomenon they call the edge windfall curve. Immediately after a fire, prey visibility and abundance to avian predators increase sharply, then decline as vegetation recovers. The curve mirrors the kookaburra's foraging intensity, an elegant overlap of behavior and environment. On a graph, it looks simple. In the field, it is anything but. The real scene unfolds as a choreography of light and motion, ash motes swirling in the sunbeam, the sharp cry of a distant bird, the rustle of life rebuilding itself one step at a time. There is an irony to the kookaburra's place in this cycle. Its laughter, the sound humans associate with ease and familiarity, often rises loudest in landscapes recovering from trauma. At dawn, as the first mist rises over blackened fields, a group of kookaburras may begin their call in unison. The effect is haunting. It rolls across the scorched trees like an echo of the forest that once was, equal parts celebration and defiance. Scientists studying acoustic recovery in fire-affected habitats have found that kookaburras are among the first species to re-establish territorial calls after burns, signaling both survival and ecological reoccupation. The sound is more than a claim. It is a declaration that the system still breathes. Their choice of perches during this time also serves a thermoregulatory purpose. The exposed edges of the burn zone, though dangerous for prey, offer abundant sunlight. For the kookaburra, a bird that must maintain internal temperature while spending long hours immobile, these warm perches reduce metabolic cost. Heat absorbed through the feet and breast feathers offsets the chill of early mornings, allowing longer hunting sessions without energy drain. Even physiology bends to the edge. Yet not every edge is beneficial. In human-altered landscapes, roads, fences, clearings, the perpetual creation of artificial edges can destabilize these natural cycles. Over time, too many boundaries favor generalist predators like the kookaburra, potentially suppressing populations of small, fire-sensitive species. Fire once created edges in a mosaic pattern, temporary, self-healing. Now, deforestation and climate-driven megafires stretch them across entire bioregions. The edge becomes permanent and the balance tips. The laughter that once marked renewal can, in such places, ring over a landscape that never fully recovers. Still, in the right proportions, the system holds. A controlled burn, executed with ecological timing, recreates the rhythm the kookaburra depends on. In those moments, the connection between fire and life feels almost mathematical. Cameras capturing the bird's post-burn behavior show it perched against the glow of ember-lit dusk, head tilted, eyes reflecting the orange haze. A mouse darts from cover. A flash of motion follows. The cycle resumes, fire giving form to opportunity and opportunity restoring equilibrium. How valuable is a new edge? The question might seem simple, but its answer depends on perspective. For the forest, the edge is loss, an open wound awaiting regrowth. For the prey, it is risk, exposure, the narrowing of every choice. But for the kookaburra, it is the moment the world becomes legible again. Every boundary carved by fire is a temporary gift, a stage where visibility, heat and hunger align in perfect symmetry. As dusk settles and the last smoke drifts across the cooling earth, the kookaburra's silhouette holds steady on its perch, backlit by the faint red glow of the western sky. Around it, insects hum softly over the new growth. The edge has begun to fade, folding back into forest. Soon the bird will move on, following the next burn scar, the next opportunity. In its wake, the bush will thicken again, life will multiply, and the laughter will echo once more, not as mockery, but as proof that even in fire's aftermath, precision and patience can turn loss into sustenance. When the Australian summer matures into its cruelest stage, the ground itself becomes the last refuge. The air is too hot to move through, the vegetation too brittle to hide within, and even the shade carries more heat than relief. Across the baked hills and parched forest floors, life seeks depth. And no creature understands the value of that descent better than the echidna, the continent's quiet geologist of survival. It is a creature shaped by contradiction, soft in movement, armored in form, ancient in lineage, yet perfectly tuned for modern catastrophe. When the fire front comes, it does not run or flee or hide beneath another's creation. It simply digs, one deliberate stroke at a time, until the burning world above becomes silence again. The echidna's body is an evolutionary compromise between vulnerability and fortitude. Its spines, modified hairs of keratin, cover a compact frame built for persistence rather than speed. Beneath that surface lies a muscular latticework capable of turning soil into shelter in minutes. Each powerful forelimb ends in curved claws, broad and flattened, designed to shovel and wedge simultaneously. The animal's gait is clumsy on open ground, but in loose soil it becomes liquid, melting downward with practiced efficiency. During fire or heat waves, this transformation from surface wanderer to subterranean anchor is not optional. It is survival's last equation. Biologists studying echidna burrowing behavior have long known the species' affinity for soil. Yet it was only with thermal imaging and temperature probes that the true sophistication of its refuge strategy became clear. In experimental plots simulating wildfire conditions, surface temperatures soared past 600 degrees, while just 20 centimeters below, the soil cooled to below 40 degrees. At 50 centimeters, it hovered near 25 degrees, survivable even for prolonged exposure. These narrow gradients mean everything. The echidna does not need a cavern or tunnel network like the wombat. It needs only the physics of Earth itself, the insulation of compacted grains and moisture locked between them. In a landscape where air can kill, the ground becomes a fortress of stillness. When a fire approaches, the echidna's response is measured, almost stoic. Rather than panic, it pauses, nose twitching to read the chemical scent of distant smoke. Its internal temperature sensors, sensitive to changes as small as a degree, register the rising threat. Then, without hesitation, it begins to dig. The motion is rhythmic, precise, and deceptively fast. Forelimbs alternate like pistons. Soil cascades over its back, and soon the creature is half submerged. As it descends, it uses its spines as anchors, pushing against the collapsing soil to stabilize the whole. Within minutes, only the tips of those spines remain visible, bristling like burnt grass. In this position, the echidna becomes a living cork, sealing its own burrow entrance against the fire's heat. Thermal cameras trained on known echidna sites during controlled burns reveal their astonishing resilience. While flames sweep directly overhead, the animals remain motionless beneath a thin layer of soil. Sensors placed beside them show the air temperature spiking to lethal levels, yet just a few centimeters below, the gradient flattens. The echidna's own physiology complements this refuge. Its low metabolic rate and capacity for temporary torpor reduce oxygen demand, allowing it to wait out poor air conditions. The spines, often coated with a thin layer of dirt, dissipate residual surface heat, while the blood vessels near the skin constrict to conserve core temperature. In evolutionary terms, the echidna is a heat accountant, investing energy sparingly and drawing safety not from distance, but from depth. When the fire passes, the world it re-enters is unrecognizable. The ground is blackened, the trees skeletal. Yet within hours, insects, ants, termites, beetle larvae begin to stir beneath the ash. For the echidna, this is a banquet. Its long, sticky tongue, extending up to 18 centimeters, probes into soil and charred wood alike, collecting the very creatures that recolonize the earth. Post-fire surveys often record an increase in echidna foraging activity within 72 hours of a burn. The reason is twofold. The heat exposes nests of ants and termites, and the reduced vegetation makes movement easier. The same event that threatened its existence now becomes its sustenance. The fire has cleared the table, and the echidna feeds at its edge. But these feeding excursions remain brief. The open ground is dangerous. The blackened surface radiates intense heat even days after burning, and aerial predators patrol the cleared skies. So the echidna employs a rhythmic pattern of emergence and retreat, minutes of feeding followed by long intervals of cooling underground. Each new burrow becomes part of a temporary network of thermal islands, patches of safe temperature connected not by tunnels, but by memory. In a study of echidna behavior during the 2019 to 2020 fire season, GPS-tagged individuals were found to reuse specific dig sites days apart, each one corresponding to micro-habitats of higher soil moisture or shade. The landscape to the echidna is not a flat plain of danger, it's a mosaic of cool sanctuaries mapped through touch and temperature. The ecological importance of these thermal islands extends beyond the echidna itself. Small invertebrates, beetles, and even seedlings often establish around the cooled soil zones left behind by repeated digs. Each excavation churns the earth, mixing oxygen into compacted layers and creating aerated pockets where fungal spores and roots can take hold. Over time, these scattered dig points accumulate into vast networks of disturbed soil, improving nutrient cycling across entire ecosystems. One echidna can turn over as much as 200 cubic meters of earth per year, a figure that rivals mechanical ploughing in scale. In doing so, it acts as both survivor and restorer, its survival instinct doubling as ecological engineering. Yet its ability to endure comes with limits. Extreme fires, the kind that burn hotter and deeper into soil than ever before, can overwhelm even this adaptation. In 2020, field researchers found charred spines marking sites where the heat had penetrated too quickly, too deeply. The soil profile had been reversed. Dry upper layers acted like kindling, transmitting thermal energy downward faster than moisture could absorb it. For an echidna, the difference between survival and death was measured in centimeters. These findings underscore the fragility of a strategy honed over millions of years, but now challenged by a rapidly changing climate. The question, how much safety can you buy with depth, has shifted from biological curiosity to urgent arithmetic. Despite this, the echidna's persistence remains extraordinary. Its lineage predates most mammals, stretching back to the Cretaceous, when dinosaurs still roamed. Through epochs of ice, drought, and fire, its core behavior, dig, wait, endure, has remained largely unchanged. Its heart beats slowly, its life measured in years rather than moments. Each generation inherits not innovation, but patience, a form of intelligence encoded in the rhythm of soil. Where other animals evolve strategies to outrun disaster, the echidna evolves to outlast it. Watching one at dusk, half buried in the cooling earth, is to glimpse that ancient logic in motion. The air hums faintly with the return of insects. Smoke drifts low across the valley. The echidna pauses, its snout glistening with ash and dew, then disappears again into the ground, folding itself into the planet's oldest refuge. Thermal cameras above register a single fading signature, a small, steady heat against the vast cool of night. In the grand cycle of fire and renewal, depth is not just shelter, it is continuity. The echidna's way of survival is a quiet reminder that the ground beneath our feet is not inert. It is dynamic, layered, alive, a vast archive of temperature and time. Every burrow dug in desperation becomes a node of recovery. Every refuge carved in heat becomes the seed of a cooler future. So how much safety can you buy with depth? For the echidna, the answer is measured not in distance, but in resilience. A few handspans of soil, a still heart, and the discipline to wait, these are its currencies. In a continent defined by extremes, it has found security not in movement, but in surrender. And when the next fire comes, as it always does, the spiny shadow will vanish once more into the earth, trusting that depth for now is still enough to save it.